similar to all of us, we were like, that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
Did you start because you wanted to be a cool kid?
Actually, I kind of got into it like by mistake, I'd say. I had a friend who basically had a house party, and I used to have pretty like quick broadband back in the day, so I used to like hustle music, collect music, and like share it with like friends. And I always like kind of had a decent ear for music, always collected music. And then he was like, man, dude, it's my 15th birthday. Like, do you want to play? I'm like, what do you mean? I've never
How old
played.
were you then?
I was 15.
Wow.
I was 15.
You were 15 as well?
Yeah, so it was like, quite a long time ago. So yeah, and then he was like, look, man, you got to sort me out, please. So we found a guy, the Beat Factory guys, who like had some sound, had some lights. Another friend had just bought a controller. Literally had 1 or 2 days to mess around. I'm like, okay, I think I got this. And then from that point on, like our age group, of course, we weren't allowed to go out, right? We were quite young. So that was like the first house party where, like, then my friends were like, yo, this can't just be a birthday thing. Like, let's do another one.
Yeah.
And then we did another one, and then like, of course, we were studying, and I used to play a lot of sports, so it was like mainly maybe once every couple of months. And then as we like grew a bit older, like we realized, like my two other friends as well, Maxis and Voss back in the day, they started playing as well, and we're like, look, why don't we find a little spot?
Okay.
And our first ever gig together was Ale House, which was near Tree House.
I remember Ale House.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Ale House, and
it's
we called
taken
it
me way back.
we called it Triple Vision
Okay.
for some reason. And yeah, basically, I think we had such a strong following from the year groups in the neighboring schools.
Yeah.
And then from then it just kind of like snowballed, into like playing a lot, and then playing for 6 a.m. That's when I really kind of got my name out there. That's probably when you guys heard me.
Of course.
Then we had Foozak and Frankie B, which was like...
I actually remember Foozak and Frankie B.
Yeah, we were like the first
You guys were like the it thing, the it team.
Yeah, we were the first electronic DJ electronic duo in Kenya, I guess.
Okay.
And then we both went to university, and in university, I mean, I played a bit. I was in Canterbury.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a scene there, so we basically started a whole new electronic scene there. Canterbury was outside of London, and then when I moved back is when I like now started really focusing on production and so on. But like until I would say around 2013, 2014, I was I was running shows in Ministry of Sound as well, and we have Kenyan diaspora in London, Kenyan students.
Of course.
So we would really try to capitalize on that, and as Kenyans, we miss the sunshine, we miss the beach, like the 6 a.m. parties. So we were able to bring that vibe and that feeling to London, and still till today, those are like some pretty good memories.
Of course, I can never forget the 6 a.m. parties in Diani.
Yeah, exactly.
The vibe is just so different, and it's something that I think will stay with me for a very long time. Keep remembering back in the days when I was like 20, 21, and it was the best way to usher in, the new year.
Exactly.
So yeah, definitely good memories. Foozak, you said that you actually started playing when you're much younger, and then you got into it properly, and then you went to uni. So when you went to uni, what did you study in uni? Did you do something to do with DJing or some other course?
No, I did international business.
Okay.
And like, it's like, pretty like staunch, like Indian parents. Or like, you need a degree.
So you need a degree.
And then, so... but again, it gave me an opportunity, and I thank my parents for sending me abroad and like
gave you
giving
skills.
me skills, and I've always been pretty good at networking and meeting people, and that's when I actually noticed that in Kenya we have a very special there was no scene back then. It was just like a handful of people playing music, but I think it was when we realized, especially me and a couple of people, that man, like this was a hobby, but it's actually could be something. And I think that's when we started realizing, because I always played because I love the music. I mean, I still love the music, but like the more like serious you get about it, of course, you treat it like a business. You become more disciplined about it. You build a team around yourself. You treat it like a business, and that's how you're able to now compete with the best in the world, which is what we're trying to go for. But yeah, definitely going to university, learning international business has helped me with anything you do as a creative, it's good to have some business acumen behind you.
100%.
Budgeting and like seeing where your money goes and negotiating, which is very important. So yeah, I was lucky enough to get that under my belt. But in terms of DJing and music, I'm self-taught. I never went to school for it.
Interesting.
I say I went to the University of YouTube.
And it's the best university, though.
I'm telling you, I tell a lot of people, I mean, if you don't have, of course, you're underprivileged or you don't have the means to study something, I mean, the internet, there's a lot of things you can learn on yourself. It's just like dedicating time and, I mean, practice, you know, the 10,000-hour rule. The more time you put into anything, the more you become better at it. So
it's cliche, but practice makes perfect at the end of the day, right? So, Foozak, you know, you mentioned that you went to university and you did business, and then you came back, you've moved back home here in Kenya. So are you only focusing on music and DJing right now, or do you also have a day job?
Yeah, I have a day job. I moved back in 2015, 2016. I have a family business.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm an only child, so my father passed away then. So I was the next one to basically, you know, no worries, and take over the business with my uncle and my mum. And I actually thought that was like the end of it, because I'm like, you know, like, of course,
I will to focus on music and DJing
like, because, you know, it's like you go through trauma, you go through like various things. But I mean, it was like really rough, I would say, like 3 or 4 years for me personally. But I was able to like come back, and before I moved to Kenya, when I was in London, I was trying to become a DJ there. And the thing is, there's like 3,000-4,000 upcoming DJs in this place. And everyone's cutthroat. Everyone's like stepping on each other. No one's loyal. Whereas in Kenya, I realized it was just us, like 3 or 4 people. So me moving back, like, I wanted to start that and start working with younger talent to build a foundation for a scene that, you know, what we're seeing today. Basically, this is where we want it to be. And like, I'm quite proud of everyone who's worked with us and who's created their own little brands stemming from what we started. But yeah, I mean, you know, when you go through certain trauma in your life, it's either you sit back and you're like, you know what, the world is an unfair place, and I give up. But I think I had to look at myself in the mirror and, you know, basically be like, look, you either gonna do it or not, make a decision, or just better like use your time. And so I go to work Monday to Friday, and I work on music as much as possible during the week. The weekends we're playing, we're running shows, and it's been quite hectic. Like,
must be a busy life. You lead a very busy life.
Yeah, very busy. Like, it's you need to make some like personal and disciplined choices. Like, of course, our industry is surrounded by, you know, a lot of vices, alcohol and so on. So like, working out has helped me this year a lot to stay focused.
That's amazing.
You know, kind of giving a break to the whole drinking
thing. I actually follow you every day, and when I see you at the gym, and I'm just like, what am I doing in my life? He's doing gym, and then he's working, and then he's playing at gigs, and here I'm sitting in bed watching his stories. So it's nice to see that you know, you're actually putting in that time of the day for yourself, and you know, self-care is very important, right? As you've said, this industry is very busy and it's very crowded. There's so much going on. So it's good to see that you're trying to focus on yourself as well.
I think, you know, like, people don't realize that as a DJ, I mean, there are a lot of DJs, a lot of like personal friends of mine who are huge DJs who have gone through like mental health issues, because you play for thousands and thousands of people, and then you're in your room alone. You check out, you get on a plane, you go to the next show, you play for thousands of people, and it's just a repeated cycle. And people think it's like a super glamorous lifestyle, like, oh my God, you get to travel.
It's a dream life.
But like the kind of like frequency of like high energy and low energy, you have to be in a really good headspace. And self-care, working out, eating well, are all like little things that can put your mind into like, you know, that kind of space. And I'm basically like trying to get all of these like self-care steps in, because I hope to be touring quite a lot more. And being based in Kenya, like, we're not the closest to Europe, we're not the closest to America.
Long hours of travel.
Travel, time zones and everything. So I mean, like, for me, I'm excited because it's my music is going to help me travel the world, hopefully. But at the same time, like, it's not just a big party. It's, you know what I mean? So people like need to, you know, if they want to get into this industry and so on, like, discipline is an important thing. And I'm not saying you come and be disciplined. Of course, enjoy yourself. Like, we've all enjoyed ourselves, but there has to be a point where you're like, okay, if I want to take this seriously, I need to do X, Y, and Z.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a great insight there, because you're right. When we just see it from outside, all we see is the glamour, and we see, you know, you living your life, traveling and just enjoying and partying, and we're like, that must be a nice life. But it's good to know that, you know, you also have to make certain decisions,
of course,
and choose. You know, you either take this path where you kind of lose control and then you do everything that comes your way, or you stay balanced. That's what you know you're all about. That's amazing. So Foozak, let's talk about electronic music. Now, back in the day, I remember when there was this house era where everybody was listening to house and techno music. Actually, first it was techno, and then it shifted to trance.
Yeah, I think actually it was like, I mean, Kenyans have always loved trance. Like Tiesto.
I was obsessed with Tiesto and Armin. And I was like, this is it. This is my type of music. And then from nowhere, we started hearing about Afro house. So this particular sound, how did it get introduced into the Kenyan market? Were you one of the first people to do so? And when you tried it for the very first time, what was the reaction that you got?
So I come from a very like progressive house background, which was more like deadmau5, that's a kind of sound. Now what started happening is, as the years went on, progressive house became super commercial and like basically noise, like just very cheesy pop.
Like loud music,
and like, you know, like, of course, I mean, bigger artists got involved, whereas, you know, like that beach sound was kind of phased out. No one really listened to it. So I went through a massive transition where I started playing a lot more techno, a lot more percussive house. Of course, the UK scene influenced my sound a lot because I was there. But when I moved back, working with the likes of like my partners, Dylan S, Suraj and Yuji, who are basically like, you know, the first young crew to come with this Afro house sound, working with them, studying with them, producing with them, I really was able to bring the melodies that I had from the progressive sound and the Afro side, which I liked, and the energy, and kind of find music and make music that kind of fit into that space. But what started happening when we built this team with myself, Dylan, Suraj, Yuji, we realized that there were international producers who were using African or tribal vocal samples, and they were just getting them off YouTube. And you know, over here we have like, you know, the Maasais, we have Samburu, we have so many amazing
instruments as well.
We have instruments. We have, you know, I think it's like 44 tribes, I think.
Of course, 44 tribes, 47 I think.
And you know, it was imperative that we were like, look, we're in Kenya, we have the ability to sample here. We're all learning a bit more about music, we're all working together, and you know, collaboration in anything you do is so important.
100%.
Everyone brings a different skill to the table. Like, I never got to learn an instrument when I was younger, but my ear, I can play chords and like I can figure it out like that. But like having people in the studio, having musicians, vocalists, and building those tracks are how some of the biggest producers in the world do it. Like, you know, someone like DJ Khaled is super big because he's really good at putting the right people in the room. He has really good engineers, he has the best ideas, and he has people who can help him put the ideas down.
Together,
And that experience and having this young team really helped us garner an Afro house sound that was kind of distinguished from South Africa. Because the other thing we wanted to do is, South Africa has South African house, and there, like, you listen to the radio, number 1 to number 5 is like mostly South African music. Then you get your Beyoncés and so on. Whereas in Kenya, we don't have that culture. So we were like, we can't just rip off South African music, we'll just sound like them. So over the years, we've been trying to like create this Kenyan electronic sound, I'd call it, which is basically, of course, the Afro drums and percussion, but with our own East African flavor, bringing the coastline in, bringing, you know, the warmness of the Kenyan people and so on. And that journey is going to take years and years and years, and it's never going to be perfected. But what we're hoping to do is inspire the next generation of producers and stuff and say, this is, if you want to go and play abroad, you have to be distinctive. You can't sound like anyone else. And this, when someone listens to this record from Foozak or Suraj, whatever, they're like, that's Kenya. And that's how we're kind of thinking of Afro house, how we're kind of putting everything together.
That's amazing. Let's talk about your events. You know, you've ventured into events, you do Ewasa Records, and that's been ongoing for 1 year now. And you've taken Ewasa to London as well. And how's that journey been for you? I want to talk about the first Ewasa that you ever did and the feedback that you got. You know, you must have had a point in time where you didn't get the crowd that you expected. And how did you deal with that and come back and come out of it?
Basically, I mean, Ewasa Records was a COVID label. So when COVID, of course, happened, we had lockdowns. I mean, we weren't able to play music, clubs shut down. So myself and Dylan S were like, look, there's already Gondwana, which is a label that focuses on a certain type of sound. We, of course, liking the deeper electronic side, let's create a label that can represent that and represent Kenyan music, because we didn't have an outfit. So the label actually started in, I would say, like the second quarter of 2021. And of course, we were like, let's build with some releases. Our first release, The Storm, I mean, right now has over 100,000 streams, was played by Black Coffee on his lockdown mix, was on BBC Radio 1. Like, it was massive for us. And that really kind of kick-started my kind of journey into music production and making music. Now, of course, when you have a label, it's only natural to have a label showcase. Where now the music you release, you can invite, let's say if it's a DJ from South Africa who's made a tune with you, you premiere the release at a party, invite Kenyans to come and, you know, enjoy and basically have an event out of it. And we're very fortunate because when we were doing that, Nairobi Street Kitchen had just opened. And the girls who there have, you know, I mean, we've grown up with them, we've known them, they've been big supporters of us. So we went with a proposal that, look, our first one, we wanted to do a free entry party just to test the waters. And I believe we were like one of the first events that started there. And I think we had like 850 people.
That's amazing for your first event.
Yeah, like a first event.
That's
like
brilliant.
That was just me and Dylan. And it was, till today, one of the most special ones. But of course, we can't keep doing free events. I mean, events cost money. We have to rent, you know, it's a lot of things, decor, sound, decks, and so on. So from there, of course, we started charging. We tried to get a sponsor on board. We had a really successful year with NSK. And now we're focusing on bigger releases. I'll premiere The Power of You, which just came out a week and a half ago.
Is that a collaboration with some artists?
Yes. So basically with Ewaso Records, we have an ethos where we want each release in its own right to at least collaborate with one Kenyan.
Amazing.
So this one is with Edward, who's from South Africa. Myself, Dylan, and Polaris. Polaris is the vocalist of Umenitosha.
Oh yes, yes, I've heard Umenitosha.
Yeah,
it's such a famous song.
Yeah, exactly. And she's a really sweet girl, very shy girl. We brought her in the studio, and like we're really trying to get her out of her shell. She has one of the most incredible voices.
I agree. Do you know, I actually thought she was South African.
Oh no way, she's Kenyan.
A lot of people, I'm sure, feel the same way because when you listen to her, you actually has that South African vibe. And then she's speaking Kiswahili, so I was just like, this is very confusing. But I mean, it's very interesting that she's Kenyan.
Yes, she's Kenyan, and when we got in the studio and we were actually working on the record, I mean, she's just got this like depth in her voice. Like we were all looking at each other in the studio like we have something here, and we just had goosebumps. And that for me is what it's about, like being in the studio, being with like artists that have not yet been, you know, kind of properly discovered, giving them a platform. And, you know, that's what Ewaso Records is about. We're venturing into some bigger events, which will be like boutique festivals, 400, 500 open spaces. And yeah, focusing on the music. We have so much amazing music that's coming out of Kenya.
That's amazing.
It's just not been put out the right way. So if we can kind of tap into that and help younger artists and the next generation, I think we have something that could really be something special.
That's amazing. So you mentioned that, you know, you really would like to tour more. Is that one of your goals, your career plans in the long run, something that you really see, you know, happening for yourself? Yeah,
I mean, I played, I mean, when COVID finished, I was lucky enough to like basically just hit the ground running. I had quite a big summer tour where I started in Copenhagen. I played 2 shows in Copenhagen.
You did like a Europe tour, right?
Yeah, I did a Europe tour. We were away for 3 weeks. I did 2 shows Copenhagen. I debuted at Pablo Fierro's gig in Ibiza at Club Chinois, which was insane. And I also got to listen to other artists. And honestly, after this summer, I was like, man, okay, I'm going to go for the summer. I'm going to play. I'm going to see what the reception is and make a decision. Because like, you either go all in or you don't do it at all. And I realized as Kenyan DJs, like, we play very differently. Because the scene over here is controlled by hip-hop. Right? So we've always been fighting to keep an audience. So we've almost developed this kind of attack where every track has to be interesting, every track has to have energy, and going abroad and basically seeing Europeans play Afro House but have never been to Africa, whereas you're from Africa, you know the swing, you know about the drums, and playing it there, like the people were blown away. They were just like, what is this? I'm like, this is Afro House, not this
what
European
you've been
stuff.
playing.
So, you know, that kind of gave me a lot of confidence. We went to Berlin with myself, Dylan, and Yuji as well. And, you know, people there were like, wow, this is incredible. So that kind of, you know, was like, guys, I think we're ready to play anywhere in the world now.
That's amazing to hear.
Yeah, because we're not sounding like anyone. We've heard the best. We've heard the best, and this is all they have. Like, we have an opportunity to highlight our country. Like, we need to work overtime now.
Yeah.
So I think that summer really changed, like, our perspective and gave us more confidence on what we're able to achieve.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you know, it's so nice to see. Usually we have this debate of how in Kenya we don't play enough Kenyan music, right? I'm sure you've seen that everywhere. And also the fact that we're bringing so many artists, international artists in our country, and they're always performing. But it's nice to see that you flipped the narrative and you're actually one of the few DJs who are touring abroad. So well done to you. That's amazing. And as we wrap up, and of course we can't let you leave without you know, spinning a little bit here and there and hearing what Afro House is all about. Any last words for, you know, people and the younger generation who is watching this interview and is inspired by you and wants to make a career out of DJing?
I think, I mean, at the end of the day, you're your biggest kind of enemy. Like, don't listen to people who will tell you that it's not possible. That should, like, fuel you more. I mean, we're all online. I'm more than happy if you reach out for any advice and so on, because I've been in that situation. It's not a nice situation, but you have to fight for it. And more than anything, you have to believe in yourselves. And I think the more that as Kenya we believe in ourselves, the more we collaborate. Like, we're doing some interesting kind of remixes with Sauti Soul and, you know, like covers, and, you know, they send us a 3-piece little edits. Just put your heart into anything you do. Put it out there. You'll get criticized, you'll get loved, you know, netizens will have something to say about you, but always do it with your full heart. And yeah, if there's anything you guys, if there's anyone who's inspired to get inside the electronic music scene, we're willing to work with a lot of artists. And yeah, reach out and just keep fighting.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You know, we'll definitely move on to the other side and have a listen to electro house and Afro house music by you in a short while. So Coljax, I guess until then, we can get some fire music from Coljax, and then we'll move on to the session with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for coming here. It's an honor, honestly, to have you. I think you're the first DJ that I've hosted.
Oh, wow.
And it's been quite a refreshing conversation. So it's been good. Thank you so much for coming on board.
Thank you, man. Thank you, KBC.
All right, Coljax, we ready?